more than India as in the past few years. What Arushi just mentioned was that these upcoming updates in the legal fraternity, like maternity benefit act and all these things. Government has so many schemes like Mahila Kosh Kendra, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and Mahila E-Hat, etc. That's all fair. But taking just the maternity benefit act itself, when the duration was increased, I think it is 6 months now. So team leads did a kind of study at that point of time, and they found out that on an average per year, 11 to 18 lakh women are losing when they are trying to come back to do their job compared to other candidate, just because the duration was increased. Because suppose I know that a fresh candidate is coming and she has just married and she may be having a child tomorrow. So can a company, maybe a startup, can afford to hire the person and give her 6 months break? That is the problem, and that was a study carried out that it is doing the incentives are misplaced there. It is going other way around. The intentions were clear, but it is not coming and picked up the way the government thought. What Arpa mentioned was about the cricket BCCI thing. Uh, Recently, just they got the equal pay opportunity, and the gap has been reduced. But still, in other games, there's still a lot of imparity still exists. In cricket itself, the kind of equipments, the coaches, the referees in other games, and support staff is altogether different when you compare uh, women team to men team. The parity is still to be done there. In 2019, there was a US women football team, and there was a lawsuit, and they were getting much lesser than their male team counterparts. So, in fact, they consecutively won the World Cups as well. They were not getting at par, whereas the men team was hardly reaching round 16 in that tournament. So there are a lot of places in tennis also. You have seen that uh, there were issues where Djokovic commented something about the play parity, and Serena countered that. So the point was that we are playing 3 sets, and women are playing 3 sets, and we are playing 5 sets. So it's not equal amount of work which is being done. But when you see the tennis matches, it is sometimes most of the matches are at length at par, and it is as entertaining and as eye-catching to the advertisement fraternity as well. Campus hiring and off-campus hiring, coming to your question. Campus hiring, when a fresher is being hired, there's a concept called as sticky floor in HR. So it's a kind of unfair advantage towards the women when a fresher is being hired. So that sticky floor is not as much relevant as it was earlier, because the biases and all are shattering. And at the entry level, the women are being fairly paid or equally paid, because obviously the offer is being made, and things start after that. Incremental losses year on year, event after event happens. When the lateral hiring happens, there's a bias in the mind that what kind of role I'm hiring, what sort of exposure. So when an employer is hiring, obviously there are two candidates. One is having similar kind of experience, recent experience at some recent industry. Other one is coming after the break. So what should one do? From a company's perspective, I will see the employee value proposition and my business thing. So obviously one will go for the candidate who is having a relevant recent kind of exposure. So it is very much important for the uh, women who are coming after a break in lateral. Those who are otherwise coming without a break, that is okay. Otherwise, the perception will still there, and they have to utilize that gap, even if that gap is there, to upgrade their skills, so that whenever the next opportunity comes, they will be the right candidate in spite of that.
See, but the point out here is when you talk about a woman, she is doing a similar sort of a job. She has the same set of competencies. She has the same set of skills, right? And when it comes to appraisals, right? Why exactly then she has not been able to consider to that particular salary levels what a male candidate has been considered?
All right. Coming to the appraisals, particularly in ESU, things like this does not exist, and I would say the gender gap is skewed towards women because there are a lot of policies and we can discuss it there. But coming to the appraisals, there's certain key performance areas which are already defined, and if a person, irrespective of the gender, caste, creed, if they are achieving that, the role of HR and the management is to see that the total transparency is being adhered to, and the role of line managers, and that is that the role of HR and the management is to see that bias removal kind of transparency is being are very much necessary in the organization for all the line managers. The role of HR and the bias and the goals of the organization are removal kind of transparency. It doesn't matter whether it is in the organization for all the role of HR of bias and the goals of the organization are not relevant, but otherwise it doesn't matter whether it is in the organization for all the organization. The role of HR of bias and the goals of the organization are not relevant, but otherwise it doesn't matter whether it is in the organization for all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and the goals of the organization are not relevant, but otherwise it doesn't matter whether it is in the organization for all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and the goals of the organization not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and the goals of the organization not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and even if they offer not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and even if they offer not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and even if they offer not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and even if they offer not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization. Men are more role of HR of bias and even if they offer not relevant, but otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization.
How have
Role of HR
sort of
even if they offer not relevant, otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization.
how have
Role of
I can actually give
even if they offer not relevant, otherwise it matter whether it is in the organization or all the organization.
how have
I can actually question they asked me that are you saying that are you planning to go to this was the first round I just stepped into the big level. Are you telling me I can actually question they asked me that are you saying that are you planning to go to this was the first round I just stepped into the big level. Are you telling me I can actually question they asked me that are you saying that are you planning to go to this was the first I can take them into the big level. Are you telling me I can actually question they asked me that are you saying that are you planning to go to this was the first I can take them into the big level. Are you telling me I can actually question they asked me that are you saying that are you planning to go to this was the first I can take them into the big level.
organization at Sprinkler, what we are doing is we are doing Employee Delightful Assurance Program, which is called EDAP. While you're doing one-on-one with your managers, with the leaders, with your skip levels, that's okay because that's something that is part of your routine. But EDAP is something that is done twice a year with your managers, which is a formal connect with your manager wherein you fill your self-reflection. It's not a part of the appraisal routine process. But EDAP is something that is process. Done twice a year with your managers and formal connect with your manager wherein now in that discussion the manager is going to ask an employee how happy are you, then you meet your manager with formally at a scale of 8. So then my manager is going to ask you transparency that we are building in the organization to promote that push factor automatically. So that you have to be open, you have to ask for it, and this is being documented. Second is that you can suggest the themes for the upcoming quarters because what you would want to contribute and what is the missing factors. So one of the theme is definitely compensation and benefits, wherein if you are not happy with your compensation, you should take that opportunity to highlight it to your manager. Now, this is not something which is settled at the manager level. Of course, skip levels and the department leader, maybe a CTO, CRO, and so forth are managing their EDAP scores and acting upon it. That's why we are doing twice in a year so that 2 quarters can be covered and we are acting upon it. I think it's a great strategy and we're building a transparent culture, but certainly agree push and pull strategy needs to be there.
I think push also comes from your personal life. When I was, I think in the morning session, wherein we had all the women, someone said that, it's important for the husbands to become homemakers. So I think, that's where the push has to come from the family as well. So it's just not professional colleagues or the leadership or the company strategy, but I think it's the support which female needs from their families. So that is equally important. And if that support is given, I think certainly, the female colleagues, their mindset will also change. And like, we have been saying that, they will be pushing hard for negotiations as well.
Now the pull factor is also definitely there because suppose I'm an employer, why would I not hire a woman and pay 80% of for the same job, same role, same kind of work, and not and ignore the men and hire all the women at the 80% rate will not be a business proposition, best business proposition. Otherwise, as well, if I will not, suppose I am a charitable organization, the market forces will move me out because other players would also be doing the same thing. Plus, most of the HR roles, even at the higher levels, are contained by women employees over there. So they know what is the compensation being paid at what level. So if there is a disparity over there, why don't they come out and strike a balance, try to strike a balance? So actually, the thing is, if you have some sort of data, suppose I have a pay data and I try to analyze it, every data point is an individual data point, and every individual is altogether different from rest of the others. Suppose I want to find out that on the basis of religion, what is a parity? So obviously one religion would be getting higher than the other religion. Suppose I want to say based on the PWD criteria, what they are earning, rest of the others, what LGBT is earning, rest of the others, and gender. So obviously when you will see and torture the data, it will confess that this 23% gap, is it because of the discrimination? Discrimination is very important word here, or some other factors which the job demands or the role demands. That role demands you have to relocate and you are not relocated irrespective of the gender, you should not be hired. That's the point.
A point, Arfa, please.
No, I just had a point that, well said that discrimination is actually there and we have to kind of take like in our hands to kind of work on it. But then there's one question I have for audience, for all the female males, for the females that have anyone of your relative or anyone of your friend has come to you and said that, what, why do you need to work? You can be a homemaker and you can, have a very comfortable life or well settled life. Or any of your male, actually, for all the guys or for all the men, that have you heard any of your relatives saying that to your sister or your mother or any friend of yours, Hands up if you have, been there in that situation. Exactly. So this is where I was telling the discrimination start from. And I think one of the panelists in the first panel said that, it starts from the molding of the child. If the parent kinds of imbibe this quality in this, we will have never been here. Like this qualities where, we have to discriminate that, why girl is working. Me being from a Muslim family, okay, I have been like a struggle for me you to come here and actually work and have a career. Because for them, it's like you get married, have kids, and your life is sorted. But that doesn't work that way. And then if you come to the push and pull strategy also, if a woman has this unconscious thinking in his mind that, what, I am not going to make it because, this is the world is going to be like, because that is kind of imbibed in every girl child. And if then we go to an interview room and then, we say, what, you have to give me what I want. That is not how it is done. It is a way long strategy, a way long process that a girl has to go through to ask what they want. So it's not that easy, it's easy said, but not that easy to be done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just what Arpa has just mentioned, and many of you probably will also agree. At least I have seen in my campus when I was in campus in college. So trust me, it is all lot to do with your environment, the upbringing, and the ecosystem where you have grown, right? And the mindset is that when I have seen a lot of my batchmates or classmates, if they'll get to know, okay, we have girl and boy both studying. Girl, maybe after completing her grad or post grad, she will get married and have a family. Lot of the boy batchmates, they'll say एक सीट खाली यार, मतलब किसी और को आप कर देते, अगर यही करना था, फैमिली बनानी थी तो फिर इतना एक, because at that time competition is there, right? You have given the exams and everything. वो सीट किसी को मिल जाती तो शायद उसका एक परिवार चल जाता. Because see, understand, this is the mindset which people had, right? And that is also which needs, and that then goes to the work life and the personal life as well. And that's, you start seeing from that lens. Because when we see many times at the time of the hiring, majorly for the laterals campus, and trust me, I have gone to various campuses, and with a pinch of salt, boys, I have seen girls are coming out much, much, much smarter than boys when we hire. And because when I have hired, the way they are articulating things, the way they are coming up, they are much smarter. And trust me, we don't need a brilliance. For brilliance now, machines are being taken care of that. We need people who are street smart, how they can manage and take care of things, right? It's more of the stakeholder management. And that's where we have seen they are coming up very, very beautifully in a way, in terms of thought process, the presentation, the stakeholder management, the approach with which they come is very, very different. And I would say the higher scale as compared to boys, which I have seen. In fact, I was talking and laughing with one of my colleague, the chief business officer. Yaar, aajkal ladko ko ho gaya hai, koi dhang ka mil hi nahi raha hai. So this is also the way wherein things are changing. I'm not saying that girls, that's where the push factor is there, right? That's where girls are also equally choosy, equally demanding and asking that this is what we want. And they're preparing themselves. It is very, very important. But it has a lot to do with the mindset, as I said, because that happens. And then you get into your corporate world. And I have seen managers coming, यार मुझे ना रात को ये रोल है, मुझे चाहिए रिक्रूटमेंट का, फॉर एग्जांपल, उसमें शायद ना रात को फिर गर्ल्स का होगा कि, आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू वेरी क्लियर फैक्ट्स, राइट? दे से शायद 8 बजे बाद में फिर यू कैन नॉट डू दैट. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थिंक उसके बाद में मुझे कैब देनी पड़ेगी अगर इफ द गर्ल विल वर्क फॉर आफ्टर 8 hours. देयर इज वन गार्ड आल्सो व्हिच विल गो. So they go and think in that direction. But the thing is how, but if we see the other side, it is an eye, right? We have to look at that how productive they are. The boy goes, man goes, and they make 2 sutta breaks, 3 sutta breaks, and then they spend time. But girls typically will work from 9 to 6 and they will go home. But the productivity we have seen is much, much better as compared to the women. So these are some of the changes and mindsets, data facts, which he was saying, Verinder, we have to look into it while making decisions as well, in terms of where we have to hire. In sales workforce, we are heavy sales workforce driven organization, which is fleet on street. We are present across 450 districts. And there, even if we wish to, we can't hire women because a lot of cases are there where they have to go run in the market. But There's a huge change which has happened now. In fact, there are some tier 2 cities wherein we have started hiring saleswomen who are ready to go move in the market, get the acquisitions done for our sales and everything. And they are doing good. I mean, the way they approach, they work. I'm talking about the tier 2, tier 3 cities. So that is the change which organization should also be ready with. The leadership and the employee should be ready with to accept. Then only it will happen. Otherwise, it is a lot to do with your roots and the foundation, how you are coming up.
The problem, just to add on that, the problem starts at the birth of the child in Indian society, the kind of mental models we grow up with. When a child is born, just a few days after the birth, if the child is girl, we go to the market and ask for the undergarments and clothes. So shopkeepers just show all the pink color frocks, undergarments kind of thing. When she grows up and maybe 2-3 years of old, we ask her or we purchase all the colors which are of gender specific, and the dresses have jari, gota, and all the frills in it. My daughter, when she was a third year, and after the COVID, when we went to the mall and things like that to purchase dresses, she just picked up the clothes which are very comfortable, the t-shirt and all, because she doesn't have that kind of bias. But the society and the parents make over the years these kind of bias among those children, and they grow up with. When the girls play outside, they try to play those sort of games. The movies, apart from the Frozen and 1 or 2 movies, always the female character is the damsel, which needs to be saved by the prince and things like that. Whereas the male child, they have the Avengers and all sort of movies. That cartoon characters even work like that. In organizations, as you mentioned, the Sutta break. There was a study in Harvard in 2020, and around it went for a year or two, and they found that there's a phenomena called as boys club in organizations. So suppose a male is having a male boss, and compared to other group where he has a female boss, so the kind of promotions and other factors in the organizations remain same. Or when a male to male, for a female, it is same. When a male is having a male boss, the difference is around 12 to 15% in that. So that happens because of the coterie. Some male bosses or the kind of culture they have created in the organization, where the whole performance is skewed towards male because of these factors of Sutta break, the drinking nights, and breakfast at airports and meeting their male counterparts for some client, which normally the women try to ignore, and rightly so.
Very well pointed out, in fact, both by Atul and Virendra. In fact, I would like to point out a couple of things which I've been doing in my current organization. So Atul pointed about the campus hiring, and so in fact, I did a study overall of last 3 years of data in my current organization, and I was amazed to see that around 65% of the talent which joined through campus were all females. So we can typically talk about the amount of caliber, the amount of competency, the sort of skills which they are carrying forward. That has been humongous. In fact, I would also like to point out some of the sales roles which we hired during COVID, where we wanted people to work in the night, because these were more of SDR roles. And I took a personal decision as a head of talent acquisition to make sure that I will only hire females for this role, because every time when I go ahead and hire for these roles, managers will typically come back saying that they want a male candidate because of n number of reasons. But I wanted to break the bias this time and let them know that let's look at female candidate for night shift role. They will be able to deliver far more better than the male candidates. And they proved me right in terms of this. So I think break the bias in terms of this is really a myth that is only in our mind, if you ask me. Another thing which I'd like to also point out is one of the surveys which I did was in terms of the job description. Because what I could typically see was that while we were having a gender biased job description, the amount of candidates which were typically applying for the roles were limited, the moment we neutralized our job descriptions and they were made totally gender neutralized, I could see a lot of, at least 56% of increase of applications from women. So that's the sort of work which we have done specifically in terms of gender neutralization. Varinder, you've been coming from an organization which is more in the government sector, and even if we look at our constitution, which typically talks about freedom to speech, freedom to expression, freedom to equal pay, right, without any discrimination. And even the government of India passed the Equal Remuneration Act in 1976, and then we have a Minimum Wages Act, right? Looking at all these legislation which we currently have in India, still, if you look at the overall corporate sector, still that particular issue in terms of gender pay gap has been existing. So what do you think should be done from the government and as well as from the employer or from the employee's side to bridge this particular gap?
Very good question, Ashish. From employers' point, I would say that though there are, government has formed these, in fact, the new wages incorporates many other laws of wages, payment of wages, bonus, etc., and has sort of framework. And in fact, it was there in 1976 also. So the laws are there, but I will tell you a case of US where around 20-30 years back, there was a lady called as Lily Ledbetter. Now, what the Lily Ledbetter, there's a case of Goodyear company. Now she started working in around 1979 or 80s over there. She worked for around 19 years. And later on in around 1998, when she left the company or sort of superannuated or separated, she found that the salary is not at par with the people who were hired along with her and are male. So she filed a case in Title 7, they call it there, in Pay Equity Act. So for Title 7, she filed a case, and in lower court, it was also upheld that yes, the discrimination is being done in appraisals and promotions and all these factors because of certain evidences she might have produced. And the courts gave an order to pay from back wages and all the differential with interest and all that. The company appealed in appeal court, and it was put down just on the basis of fact that the matter was outside the purview because it is not brought into the notice within 180 days. So the law says that if you bring that discrimination into that window frame, then only you will receive that amount. So either she will receive the pay parity mismatch of 180 days. Now the problem is how and when the person knows. Can a person know within 180 days that I am being discriminated? Because it is an incremental process. So laws are there in UK, for example, and several other countries. I think in Japan also from 2023, it's going to be that certain number of employees, if they are there, then you have to disclose, mandatorily disclose that what is the disparity between male pay and the female pay. Now, because of that, since it is existing in UK, you will see a Twitter handle called Pay Gap App. Now, what it does, it names and shames those kind of organizations. Today also you will find that it has shamed something or the other, because whenever, for example, a few years back when Tech Mahindra tweeted about LGBT inclusion in their policies and all, suddenly what this handle did, it quoted and retweeted it saying that this organization pays X% less to working women than men for this hourly rate. So when these kind of external factors, apart from the legal framework which is already there and the policies which are there within the organization, because legal framework is not that much helpful because some loopholes will always be there. Now that Lily Ledbetter, now it is an act, because later on it was further challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Obama government sort of made it an issue, and Obama signed a bill in 2007 or 8 or whenever the election was there, and later on the act was known as Lily Act. So you have to raise the voice through these handles. There was another Twitter hashtag like Me Too. It talks about the talk your pay. So people posted that what kind of role they are doing, what kind of salaries they are. So a lot of things come out in table when processes like these happen. So apart from the policies are there, but this Disclosure Act and further things will improve if they go in that direction.
I think I'll just add, like Virendra said that, we have the policies. Now, in most of the examples, we have referred to countries like US, UK. We haven't given any example for India. Why is it so? Because, we always talk about what is happening in the West. We always talk about what is happening in the developed nations. We never talk about what India is doing. And that's where the challenge is. So from a campus per se, I can give you an example. Foreign universities in countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, they have a concept of deferring a semester. And, in lieu of that, you can actually do a 6 months internship. Now, in that internship, you are only allowed to work for 16 hours a week, which is precisely 2 working days. So you have to disclose that to the local government. Now, do we have such policy in India? Well, we all know the reality of internships. When we hire interns, I don't think they are any different to a regular employee of a company. And every company has an intent of hiring a summer intern or a winter intern again. So I think it's important to have those policies in place and execute them as well. So as a country, yes, population is a challenge for us. We can't ignore the fact, but I think there is a lot of progress being done by the employers. But I think now the time has come when India should rise, and as a country, we should also speak our voice at a global level. I mean, whatever the government is doing, but the corporate sector really needs to come up and really needs to speak out for their own employees. We should not be in a scenario wherein we are still hearing from the colleagues that why am I working beyond our regular contractual working hours? And they always give example of US, UK, Australia, Canada. Over there they have the work-life balance. Why can't we have it? So I think it has to be a joint effort. And again, it will impact positively the gender pay equity as well.
It is in India as well. I was just adding to it. In India as well, and within my organization, I will just tell you a story that we have a policy of 2 years childcare leave. Now, a female employee can take that leave up till 18 years of age of the younger child. Now, suppose a male and a female joined a company 5 years back, and 2 years down the line, the female was expecting and delivered a baby, and she went on the maternity benefit, which she is entitled to for 6 months. And later on, she also took the child care. Now, 5 years down the line, if that person, normally the attrition rate is very low in PSU. But if suppose we calculate from that standpoint of 5 years, the pay gap of those 5 years is that the man has worked twice for the same salary compared to the female counterpart. So there are policies are existing within India as well. But the problem is that they are washed away or from some pretext or the other, because this this child care leave also is not taken by many women employees. And in COVID also, those leaves were self coming to the operation shift when COVID was there. So the policies are there, but we have to raise our voices whenever we need to in this context.
I think just to add, see, pay parity, we have to look at the pay gap, basically not just at a gender, this thing. Usually in organizations, if you'll see, it's very clear, the corporate, the business world, which is there, we all talk about pay for performance, right? And just one thought wherein what we have seen is, if somebody is performing, so he or she is definitely eligible for the higher pay. And most of the times when we have seen when there is a disconnect or this thing that so-and-so person has got this increment, I have not got this, right? And then also it is being sometimes construed and seen as, oh, this is because of my gender or my ethnicity or my anything, right? Location or region which I belong to, or my manager is from so and so region, that is why this is, or trust me, this happens, and this is there wherein, okay, he's from my college, and I'll have a preference. And I have seen in biggest of the biggest organizations, right? Wherein, okay, he's alumni, he's from my alma mater, and my boss is also from so-and-so college. I'll give a preference to him or her. This is all, we all are humans, right? So that's what I'm saying. It is going to happen. How our policies and processes are going to manage this is something which we have to take care of. Any organization, if you see, none of the organizations have anything wherein they have a disparity in terms of on the policy side. It's more about the implementation and how people perceive and implement. We have policy wherein somebody is rated as a top performer and somebody joined at a lower salary or a higher salary. There is a parity which is there. So I am a best performer and Achint is also best performer, but I joined at a lesser salary. He joined at a higher salary. My increment will be probably higher than his increment, because at an organization level, we both had performed at the same level. And it is organization's responsibility as a policy philosophy that both should be then rewarded and be at the similar pay package, somewhere near to that, right? So that is something, and it's all also organizations, when they see, it's a very, very different journey for every individual, how they have grown, how they have reached here. Otherwise, there are a lot of conversations happen. Oh, he's or she's little junior to me. How can I report to him or her? These conversations happen. How can my compensation will be higher than this? I have seen, in especially in IT organizations, wherein project manager is at a lower salary and a technical consultant or a functional consultant who is reporting to them are having a higher salary, or a solution architect is having a higher salary than the project manager or project director for that matter. But the policies are around that, wherein you have to maintain the confidentiality and how you have to bridge that gap in terms of the understanding. So there are certain organizations wherein even the managers don't know the salary of their team members, except the function head or HODs, right? So that happens.
But then you have the sort of glass door kind of things nowadays, where everybody openly criticizes the bad culture. That is one way of.
Yeah, because Glassdoor, see, I'll tell you, trust me, how many times we as a happy employee go and write on Glassdoor? Never. But whenever I'm unhappy, I'll go and write and take out my whatever anger or unhappiness is there on Glassdoor. So that's what ma'am said is, it is a one-way communication. It's not the both sides of the stories are coming out there.
So you mean, so then the other point comes into picture is, see, every organization typically has a equal pay and equal pay policy, right? In that scenario, when definitely the compensation is a confidential affair, right? So that means this particular policy then loses its overall structure, even if we are gonna do give hike to people purely based on the performance and other parameters. So do you think this particular policy loses its structure?
Which one? No, I didn't get you.
So in organizations, typically we have an equal pay policy, right? And
no, people don't have equal pay policy. Mostly the organizations have pay for performance.
no,
But they have ranges. So,
no. So when I say equal pay policy in terms of discrimination. So irrespective of caste, creed, irrespective of gender and everything. Or equal.
So we as an organization are a equal opportunity employer, wherein irrespective of your background, race, caste, creed, gender, anything, you are be given this thing, right? A role or a job in the organization. There is no discrimination on that piece. And the role which you are being hired, there is a very clear-cut quartile or range which is defined. So from, for example, 10 lakhs to 25 lakhs, there is a range, right? And it also has some logics. If you're from so-and-so institute, so-and-so compensation, last compensation, so much experience, you will fit into what bucket, right? And it is also a matter of, so usually we'll see this is where the range is. It's a very broad range. Then you define quartiles. Then you have to also drive the performance of your recruiters, right? If you're hiring people at a quartile 2 and below, you will be incentivized more. And this is this thing, right? All those things are there. If you're crossing the range, then your performance and incentive is being questioned. So, but if you'll see, typically for each role, there are comp benchmarking which is being done as per the market. And I don't think any of the organization defines, oh, if it is a female employee or this thing, then the range is different. It is mostly but the function, the level, and level has an experience range basis which they typically hire. only after that. So this is where people typically hire people and the compensation is being defined. But beyond that, it's all purely on the performance. So that's what I give example. Probably he was at a higher salary, I was at a lower salary at the time of hiring by virtue of whatever my XYZ current compensation or anything. But now if we both are in the organization, here the organization plays a role of a pay parity, wherein they will say, okay, Atul has also performed this as a sales. I also met 100 crore target. He also met 100 crore target. Yes, his journey was different. He joined at a little higher salary. Atul was little less salary. I was hired at a quartile 2. He was hired at a quartile 3. Now in the performance, it is organization's duty and this thing in terms of the pay parity that we both should get somewhere similar or little higher. So I should get little more because I have to match that level, right? So probably he will get 11% increment, I'll get 12% or 13% or 15% increment just to get the parity. That does not mean that my salary and his salary should match. Otherwise, then it will be typically the government, right? The pay bands are there. There is no worry. And I have seen my father, it is this rank, this salary, this base salary is there, and hence this you are getting. So if that is the case, wherein probably it is also narrative wherein people have seen that, then and a lot of things we have learned, right, from military and from government, wherein we have seen that if this is salary is there, the performance are not there, then departments are not driving the performance, and hence corporates have picked up that, okay, there is a pay for performance, and hence this parity or disparity, both are good for the organization, but with the right philosophy is very, very important, right? So this is something which organizations have to balance out. And I'm not saying balance out, the right word is being centered, right? You have to be centered. Balance will never happen. It will keep on fluctuating, but how you are centered in terms of your philosophy, your thought process to manage both the extremes is the key.
Yeah, I'll add a very interesting point to the entire conversation. Our Indian education system is extremely complicated. And that leads to, because, when we talk about hiring, we start from the campus. When we talk about US, UK, they are streamlined. For an instance, every university in India will have a different scoring system. Every school will have a different scoring system, or I would say we have 2 or 3 different boards in India. Now that also impacts the way the organizations steer the universities and colleges and institutes. Now, we all know that nowadays students are scoring like 99%, which was never the case 10 years back. Everyone is CGPA in class 10th. Now I see that, even in 12th, 98, 90. It becomes really challenging when we, go through the profile. So if we are doing an MBA recruitment, scores are like something to be ignored. Now, what we see in our organization is, what have you done apart from your academics? So that's a different thing. But what I'm trying to say is Indian education system is extremely complicated, and somewhere someone needs to take a call and needs to streamline this. Otherwise, one of the parity will always remain, because, we will always go with this mindset that, okay, this is a tier 1, this is a tier 2, this is a tier 3. Accordingly, we will pick up the salary ranges as well. And even though, if, like Atul said, we both are performing well, but if he's from a tier 1, I'm from a tier 2, I will still remain a tier 2 employee in the company, no matter I'm a 5 rater for 10 years.
I think to add on to it, I think that's the trend that is also being changed. There are companies who are going at across campuses, across tiers, and offering the same package. I think Sprinkler is one of them, which is offering, irrespective of the tiers, we offer same salary, same amount of breakup, no differentiation. It's the meritocratic environment that we are talking about in the performance.
Yeah.
So I think
that's the same we
yeah.
do at a pan-India level for our bachelor's hiring, because that's 90% of our hiring, irrespective of the colleges, irrespective of the universities, you get same paid. And we, in all our job descriptions across the board for years, we have been clearly mentioning WTW as an equal opportunity employer.
But I just last thing which I'll add is, I have seen that, like in campuses, if you'll go, even the placement offices will say, sorry, if this package is below this, we don't entertain, right? So it also starts from there, that, okay, for us, minimum package is this, then only companies are also eligible to come for the campus. And this I have seen. So it is, it depends that where you're heading towards. Probably, I'm just giving an example, what generation 1 IMs are there and generation 2 or 3 IMs are there, their demand, if I'll go to IM Ahmedabad, just an example, they'll not say, sorry, we'll not entertain you for 5 lakhs or 8 lakhs package if you'll come, right? So see, it is going to be there. I'm not saying that we can't say that everything in batches when we get. So when I joined as a campus batch, we were 32 people. Somebody was from IM Kozhikode, somebody was from IM Bangalore, somebody was from SP Jain, somebody was from Nirma, but everybody was having a different package, right? And then we can say there is a disparity. Organization is unfair, right? So we have to figure out a way, and we have to also understand and build that capacity as professionals, as individuals also, that what is every life, every individual has a different journey. So sorry, I'm taking it a little philosophical, but that's the truth of the life, that every journey is very, very different. And that's what we have started seeing. A lot of young CXOs are coming, and people who have not scaled up, they just see, oh, sorry, how can I report to somebody who's having only 10 years of experience or 12 years of experience? And that's there, they feel choked. Their compensation is probably way lesser than what the comparatively less experienced person is. So this is an ecosystem where every kind of thing will be there. But yes, to the extent, the most important piece is that what philosophy you are applying and how fair and trustworthy your approach is there in terms of dealing with these situations. You can't have, as I said at the start, मतलब राम राज्य में भी equality नहीं थी, वो कभी नहीं होने वाली है. This is not the law of nature. So somebody will be higher, somebody will be little lower, somebody will be less paid, somebody will be highly paid, but how fairly they are paid is very, very important. That is something which we have to take care of.
Thank you, Atul. So I've been reminded that the clock is ticking fast. So we need to now sum up the discussions. So before I sum up, I wanted to check with this beautiful audience that if they have any questions. Yes, the lady in this in the gray cardigan, please.
So I would like to thank all of you. It was really an insightful session. I have two questions. First is is there any bias training that you have at your workplace, and any specific element that has seen or experienced a drastic change after those bias trainings? So is it effective or not? Then the second question is, would you be open for a social science experiment or simulation exercise at your workplace to sensitize towards a different group and towards a diverse and inclusive workplace?
I'll probably take up that question. As an organization, we have all sorts of trainings, which includes unconscious bias as well. We couple of years the hiring managers and interviewers, which was known as license to hire. So precisely this was done to ensure that, whatever halo effect, unconscious bias, whatever they come across in the interview process, which also includes, the gender biasness, we get rid of that. So any new person who takes the interviews within the company, is being trained on license to hire. That's a mandatory training as a part of other trainings as well. And to answer to a second question, yes, I think we would be open to that.
In fact, I'd like to add on your second question. So you talked about the experiment. In fact, starting of this year, we did an similar experiment for a couple of our roles, where we were able to hire people from the LGBT space. Okay, and right now they're the part of one of our sales team, and they have been doing extremely well.
Same time, I would like to add here, apart from LGBT community, I think there were a lot of instances happened with the blacks that are in the US, right? So a lot of organizations are doing simulations in terms of they're letting the employees be open and what are the instances they've faced in the past. Probably in the same organization, employees are not aware what is the other employee or your fellow colleague is going through. So there are a lot of campaigns like Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ plus community that we talk about on a daily basis. I think a lot of clubs, a lot of communities are coming forward, and a lot of diversity and inclusion initiatives are taken by every organization. And I think that is something which is creating and bringing that change. So
I'll just add one thing. Within the company, we have built IND council. So we don't call it diversity and inclusion. We call it inclusion and diversity. And the reason for that is we can hire diverse talent, but if our environment is not inclusive, then that diverse talent will not be beneficial to us. So that's why we put inclusion first. And as HRs, as business leaders, everyone has IND goals as a part of their annual review process. So we have key objectives year on year basis, depending on the role which we are doing. And we ensure that those practices are being followed and those objectives are being met.
So we have, just to add last one, this, sorry, is similar to this. We have in fact did one session with our hiring managers on by Goldsmith Marshall, right? So who has written this book also, how not to hire the best. And that is a session which we did. And then we actually gave his book to every hiring manager. What we have also ensured, because what we have seen is that there is a big new insight which has come out. Also, other than the diversity, inclusion in terms of the gender, race, creed, and everything, we have started seeing in the current times is the generational inclusion. Most of the times what we have seen is that anybody who is above 45 or 50, organizations have literally that mindset which is coming, wherein, oh, they'll not be productive, they'll not be that forward looking, not progressive in terms of the thought process. And a lot of people we have seen that they are being rejected. So the generational inclusivity is something which we have started pushing more on, even though we are startup and we want our average workforce to be of the age of 25 years, but we still see that there are certain roles, there are certain profiles who are really, really compelling, very strong, but by virtue of their age factor, it's a unsaid this thing, but not in the policy, but people have not, hiring managers have that mindset, okay, let's not hire, otherwise, team engagement and then team alignment and everything will not happen. He'll not gel with the team, he'll be or she'll be little out of the team and all that. With those nuances, we have started sensitizing them in terms of welcoming all kind of workforce. And that's where you will, so inclusion is, diversity is not something wherein we are just talking about that every different, so there is a cultural fitment. Earlier, the assessments which used to have, we have stopped that. So we have said that anybody coming from different cultural aspects and mindset is also okay, welcome, because they will bring in different perspective. Rather than cultural fitment was okay, the person is also aligned, thinking similar to us and all that, right? That actually kills the whole diversity piece. And hence, we have pushed that we should have people from different cultures who are come and then contribute for the organization.
Any other questions?
Yeah. So as I said, when I said that, this came out that this is a discrimination against the men. No, so as I said, this was something which we have when I met a lot of female colleagues, and this was more on the demand basis, not an organizational level, and hence we have just propagated that this is a need which is coming, and hence we have given it to women that okay, this is something which you can take. But you are completely right, yes, that it can be given to men as well. You promote that piece, but when we have just consciously not done it at this point of time, knowing that my nature of work which is there and people who are supposed to be working on that, how we can balance it out. Though trust me, the takers of MER is also very, very less. It is a lot of push wherein we have to tell that, okay, please go for, there's a MER, sometimes you should go for it, but it is not there. That's why I said the push and pull factor is there, wherein we have to sometimes come and say. So there is a weapon which we have been given, and just to let you know, we have also put in mandatory leaves, right? So we have out of the EL, the privileged leave which is there, we have put that 5 days is a mandatory leave which every employee has to take. And these leaves will not be carried forward, not encashed. And this we have given to the whole organization, including men and women both. But takers are very, very less. Right. So we are also experimenting. I'm saying that it is right. And with the conscious, this thing, it was a disclaimer that we are doing it only for women on the need basis, which has been asked. But if this works, we'll definitely extend it to men. And it's not that few men have not come and asked for it. It is also there. But we have just taken call that let's do a cohort of women only to start with. But the percent takers are very, very less. I would say it is hardly out of 12%. There are hardly 5-6% women who are just taking that.
I personally believe, but I believe stop training women. We need to like the push to is that more absorbent, like because men
Yeah.
I think it's better to train men also like how to behave. You know, these are like very few things which are inbuilt.
Small steps.
Small things. So I think we should focus. If we are focused on parities, we should focus on training this side of the world.
Agreed. Very, very aptly. I think it is important that these sort of behavioral courses or behavioral training should become mandatory, if you ask me.
I actually feel men have already done their part. Otherwise, we have not reached till here what we are here. Suppose only women were doing their part, we will have not been here. Men are actually supporting, as I think one of the panelists said, you know, their husband kind of supported you, go do your work, I'll be supporting you. And that's why I think we are celebrating International Women's Day, because they are maybe changing and evolving in their own self. And that is what is needed.
Adding to that, obviously, female also needs some sort of training, I think, in this aspect. Because in our company, in my previous company, HP, there was a study that whenever an internal opening is there, men apply even if they are 50% ready for that role. And women employees, they are around 50%. They are 100% if they are satisfied in the job requirements, then only they will apply. Men are applying at the 50%. So there is something called as imposter syndrome working here. So we need these kind of trainings for female employees as well.
I'll add a lighter note thing. If women take 1 hour, then men should be given a tight timeline as well. Otherwise, they might end up spending 2 or 3 hours on cooking. Precisely, women. I mean, this is more like a funny notion, you know. When we would ask the female person that, you know, please cook for us, you know, be quick. So I think that's the same reciprocation that should be done, and that's how men will learn. I mean, I know cooking, so I do it. So that's how I can say it.
I don't have questions, but I definitely would like to add some food of thought for all of us. We've talked about gender, we've talked about disparity, which is there. But we've heard Virendra talking about at childhood paying. What we don't understand is then to think that why are organizations, why are HR folks not doing anything about it? Look at the diversity is happening. I mean, look at the differentiation which is happening right at the first stage.
Right.
That's one. Two is, I think one of the fellow colleagues talked about that at the board level is certain specific gender which are being created. Yes, it is. I agree. But please do look at the data again to see that the HR person, generally 90%. But that same actually the bottomest level in terms of our board. And boardrooms are each and every individual bottomest layer in is that that's we discard and we are biased towards females for a lot of reasons. Now, and if it's required for you as a human, it is required for males. Thinking about innovative ways of other leads.
So just very interesting thing on the leaves part. We earlier in our organizations, we had birthday leaves and anniversary leaves. And trust me, the bachelors and the fresh campus has, they started coming and saying, we are not married. So how will we are actually yeah. So they said that can we have anniversary or love anniversary or date anniversary leave like that. so what I did then, we removed the birthday and anniversary. We called it a special moments leave. And then in that, because a lot of times, probably we have seen the data as well. My birthday is there, but probably I have not taken leave. I end up working most of the times. And what we have done is that, okay, special moments is, it could be your child's first day at school. It could be your parents' birthday or anniversary, my birthday or anniversary. And also for people who wants to celebrate their dating anniversary or a first date anniversary, whatever, they can do that. So that's how we have tried to evade that. Okay, it's not just a birthday or anniversary. You don't have to just go for it. In fact, during COVID, a lot of us have restricted ourselves in rooms, right? And we have started pushing that, okay, let's introduce the hobby leave. We have killed our hobbies. So we have introduced the hobby leave, that you go and pursue your hobby and just click a picture, and whose picture is the best will also just reward them, just like that, or recognize this thing. So these are some of the things which we tried to balance it out. And as you rightly mentioned, maternity leave, but there is again a bias, right? That there is no paternity leave, but there is a maternity leave of these many days. But a lot of organizations have started taking that step, that okay, paternity leave is also equally 26 weeks or 3 months, whatever is there. So this is a journey wherein we all as a humankind and as organization are evolving and trying to make what best we can do.
So thank you everyone for joining in, and it has been a pleasure and a great evening, and it's been a pleasure to moderate this particular session. Lot of learnings, and one thing which I can definitely foresee is that sessions like this really give you a lot of insightful information, and it opens your minds. So thank you all for joining in. Have a great evening. Thank you.
I would just sing Happy International Men's Day to everyone. I think employers should be prepared to welcome Gen Z now. So the policies are going to change because Gen Z is entering and we are seeing the Gen Z over here.
So special thanks to all the students who have done this, bringing out us here, making this whole panel actually being successful. And kudos to you, all of you, the whole team of HR Conclave.
I'm extremely sorry. As we are all enjoying this very enthusiastic discussion going on, but sadly one of our guests needs to leave and she won't be able to continue with the panel discussion. We are extremely sorry for that. So Arushi, Vadva ma'am, it was enlightening to hear your views on how there has been a transition in the last 10 years. And you also mentioned that it is the mindset change in the leadership of a company that can encourage a meritocratic environment and thus probably reduce the disparity in pay. Thank you for your wise words, ma'am. We wish to host you again at IIM Jammu.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for having me here. It was a pleasure to have a exchange brain drain of the thoughts and brain share rather. And thank you so much. I think I'm wishing you all the best in all endeavors that you pursue. And yes, Sprinkler would be committing to the future of this campus in whatever way we can. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
I now request our director, Sir Dr. B.S. Sahai, to come on stage and please facilitate Arushi ma'am.
Interesting discussion indeed, where our panelists encouraged meritocracy and step at a time. I would like to thank our esteemed panelists for touching upon various topics and spreading positivity with their wise and encouraging words.
While we wish this discussion could go on forever, we are unfortunately bound by time constraints. We have learned so much in the time we have been here and gained a lot of insights on the theme. We now request our director, Sir Dr. B.S. Sai, to come on stage and felicitate other guests. Please, sir. We invite Jabir Ali, sir, to felicitate the guests.
It was indeed a day full of insightful discussions. The day began with our guests sharing their views on a working mother's conundrum, followed by an insightful session discussing how to retain talent by plugging the brain drain in the healthcare sector. We then discussed the prevailing inequality in the wages of men and women for the same job.
But the day is not over yet. We have a cultural event lined up right after the tea break, where we'll experience the unfolding of beautiful colors of the cultural feast. And dance performances will be performed, displaying the diverse culture of our country. We look forward to continuing beyond this event, the cultural event, after a short break. Esteemed panelists and dignitaries, you may please proceed to have tea and snacks now. The students may disperse for tea and snacks now.